why party at the end of the week, or we can party on a Sunday.
So basically, start the podcast. We got my best friend Jacob.
Your
Smith.
best friend.
Of course. I used to know him as oh my gosh.
That's good that you forgot. I don't want anybody digging up this dirt. So
But Canon was the project, that's about it.
Yeah.
And but either way, that's how I first found out about you. And then basically to see you come into the producer light has been quite impressive, actually, because I mean it's as much as I thought you would have been with how well the project did that you put out. I thought that that's the route you were going to stick with, that's the route you were going to stay with, but this producer route and sound design and all that stuff that you've been doing seems to be fitting a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me too, in my own personal life and in the workflow, and at the end of the day, the thing that got me into music was production as well too. When I got my cracked version of FL back when I was like 14 or 15 years old, that was my introduction to music. And I think even when I was doing the performing stuff, I was always kind of thinking about how I never thought that I was as good of an artist as I was a producer. And I thought that if I could take some of those same beats that I was using and give them to other people and work with people that I thought lyrically and vocally were more talented than me, that I could help them get to the next level. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
So, it definitely wasn't an easy decision when I made that shift, you know what I mean? Because I'd put, so many years and time and energy and stuff into it. But at the same time, I needed to kind of follow my gut, follow my heart. And I'm glad that I did that because I'm happy with the road that I chose.
And clearly it's given you a lot more success than your initial venture of being an artist was. So
yeah, definitely. And who knows, like I could have kept going.
Well, this is also
it's
true.
But would I have wanted it as much as I think I want the production stuff? Definitely not. I think for me,
that speaks volumes then.
Yeah, for sure.
So basically what I like to start with is like a background deep dive of how, I guess we don't need to go that deep if we're going to the production side, but we very much will, I guess, too. But just where it all started, what sparked you to become a producer, I guess, more than an artist now?
I mean, I think it was honestly the fulfillment part. I mean, part of it as well, too. It's like when you're, or at least for me, when I'm making beats, like I'm constantly like, I feel like I'm speaking in like production in my head internally. Like it's just like a constant. It's like I always want to get these things out, whereas like when it came to like being an artist and lyricism and stuff, those stories, those things that I needed to do took a really long time because I wanted to get them perfect. Whereas like production, to a degree, it's like I could make a song that sounds like it could have been, for Michael Jackson, or I could make a song that sounds like it could have been for Drake. Like you can literally be all over the map. You don't have to be in one box, and you don't have to be like, anyway. So long story short, like it was part of that I really just wanted to spend more time working on that side of the craft. But yeah, I mean, my backstory is I'm from Nova Scotia. I live in Toronto now. I spent time in LA. I first went there in probably like 2015 or 16 to work with, I was working in the Kanye camp filming around when he was doing like the Life of Pablo stuff. And that ultimately led to a bunch of other film and sound design gigs. And kind of turned my world from, production and artistry to a more film and media focused world. And that all led up to the release of the Travis Scott documentary for Netflix, Look, Mom, I Can Fly, in August of 2019, I believe. So I scored that as well as edited that with White Trash Tyler and a bunch of other individuals. And after that came out, that's when I truly put my foot down and said, I'm going to give like the production thing like a real shot, you know, I'm really
Right,
going to
yeah,
go
yeah.
in for it. So ever since then, I've been kind of switching the narrative, changing the conversation from like, oh, I can score the Travis Scott film to like, hey, I can produce for Travis Scott and make the records with him and stuff like
Which
that.
is not many people can really say that.
Yeah, it's
Well, I mean,
not
not
easy
no,
to do,
definitely not.
but we were able to do it. So yeah.
So in saying that, I guess since you nailed those kind of things, what inspires you? Like, who inspires you, I guess, the most in your production?
I think if I could, I mean, I'm constantly inspired all the time by just, you know, the production I hear on a daily. But I would say if I was to pick, like, if I was to like make myself, like if I was to put the ingredients into the pot, the ingredients would probably be, if this is a tough one, either Boy Wonder or Wonder Girl when it comes to like the drums and the bounce.
Fair.
Maybe I'll go with Boy Wonder simply because he's the OG, the originator.
Of course,
you know, so all homage to him. As far as like textures, sound design, and sound selection, Frank Dukes. And as far as just being a great musician, playability, taste level, ear, Mike Dean. So if I could be Frank Dukes, Mike
Fair.
Dean, and Boy Wonder mixed together, which I'm currently, I think that's like the super producer, the superhuman. I'm
100%.
trying to be that.
Sounds
So
unreal.
that's it.
So
yeah.
But I mean, if that's what you're striving to be, I'm sure there's no roof to that being achieved. So
yeah.
I guess I like to touch on the fact, why is music important to make for you? Like, what does music serve as a purpose making it? Like,
yeah, I think, I mean, it's twofold. I think number one, it was just like a great outlet for me to have from the time that I was a teenager up until now. And then the second part kind of works in that, to think that I can like literally create something out of thin air, you know, that I can like, I have a lot of like friends that spend time, you know, building characters in video games and you know,
right. Yeah.
to me, like that, I have that fun and that enjoyment when I'm making music, because it's like a video game, putting all the blocks, the puzzles, the pieces together. But at the end of the day, I can hit export and feel like I have something, even though it's not tangible. I know it's like digital. I still have something that I feel like I've created, I've put out into the universe, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's kind of like addicting and stuff. So I think there's many reasons why I do it, but I think at the heart of it is that it makes me like I'm in a better mood. If I wake up and I make a great beat, I just have a better day. It's just, there's no doubt about it. On those days where I'm in the studio and I'm trying like song after song and I can't figure it out, my fiance will always be like, oh, it's just like, it just affects your mood so much. And it does, it truly does. Like if I can make some slapping beats, I feel really good about like life. So it's just it's a great pick me up, you know?
I like the sounds of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like to touch on more, I guess we already touched on what like kind of defines your sound, I guess. We touched a little bit on that. I don't know if we completely did, but
I mean, that's a great question, but also a tricky one. Like when I think about what defines my sound, a lot of those influences that I mentioned really, I guess to a degree, define it. They are the foundation. Like I was literally just going through that first Boy Wonder kit that dropped back in probably 2004 or something like that. Like it was so long ago. And I was just thinking about how much that influenced my sound and just made, like I use that, you know, when you mentioned Canon, and even to this day, like the idea that I was going through it today, it's like those things get kind of ingrained in you. I love synthesizers. I think like if I was to boil it down for like what I try and do, I think it's like mixing some of the more like out of this world sounds. I try and bring that into a in this world palette, if that makes any sense. Trying to take some of the weird, strange sounds that I can get like off a synthesizer and stuff, but put it in a way that like you'd want to listen to it on repeat. Because sometimes like those things can just be so you can't take that much of it. It can be off-putting, and that's where just I think a lot of time just like
finding the balance.
Yeah, studying music, and also like some people just like naturally have like an ear for that. Not to say that I do, but like I think over time I've gotten
developed.
Yeah, I've developed a ear or something where I can like hear the sound and know what I need to do to manipulate it to make it listenable for like an average individual. And I think that is super important, because it's one thing to produce to impress producers. That's a hard one to get out, but it's another thing to make music that people actually like want to listen to and artists want to hop on. So it's two different worlds, you know?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking about that. It's like, to know exactly what you can do to a certain sound takes an ear, like, and a good one at that, because I know sometimes it's like I can think about what I want this to sound like, but I don't know exactly what I have to do to make it sound like how I want it to sound.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess that separates the producer from the artist, but at the same time, a good producer from an average Joe.
Yeah, you have to study a lot of gear and like test things out and happy accidents and stuff like that too. Because when somebody walks in the room, and you need to be prepared to the point someone could walk in and be like, I need to sound like I'm outside on the street and I'm at a party and in a building that's like 3 stories up. It's like some people can hear that and be like, I have no clue. Other individuals can hear that and be like, okay, we put the filter here, we route it to this reverb, we cut it off here. You know what I mean? And so I'm just trying to.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah, for sure.
So like to touch on. I usually ask what other business ventures and side hustles. I know you got Octave, so I'll let you talk about that a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that you got going on as far as side hustles?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the two businesses right now that I'm focused on is like my production business. So simply just like producing, scoring, doing that type of stuff, my own like kind of my best friend Jacob world. But then Octave, which ultimately is a company called Software Audio. So Octave is one of the first products that we released. We have another one coming this summer. We're a small company, staff of like 5 individuals right now. So we've grown leaps and bounds in the last 12 months since we launched. But we're here to provide production tools specifically for rap producers. I think that it is, rap is the #1 genre in the world, yet we're continuing to like use instruments and things that were never really built or meant for us. And I think that to a degree, that's kind of cool, because like hip hop came from that world. Like literally somebody had to like rig up those turntables. Like those things didn't exist. And so, even with samplers and like sampling and all those things, like I think the hip hop mindset is one that you can take nothing and make something out of it. I just think at this point, you need to have things that you can rely on when you get into the studio and stuff like that. And I think that a lot of other genres, EDM, folk, you know what I mean? It's like there's so many different software ventures and stuff happening in those worlds, but like nothing is happening in hip hop. And so it was kind of just to scratch my own itch. But I've realized in growing the community, we have about 8,000 individuals now using the Octave plugin.
No big deal.
And so it's a great little milestone. And within that community, I'm starting to see how this truly is like benefiting those producers that didn't have, it's like back to the whole ear thing and stuff. Like this took a long time to develop. And so when sometimes, to your point, like when producers open up a plugin and they see like 6,000 sounds or and all these knobs, they think to themselves like, how do I just get it to sound like that Drake record I just heard? You know what I mean? And a big part of what I'm trying to do is help curate it so that experience A is a lot simpler, and or B, those sounds are kind of already curated and selected for you, so you just know what to go to get the job done.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Sounds like you got a lot on your plate, but at the same time, it sounds like you love what you're doing, so it's hard to complain.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that gets me up every morning at 5:45 and keeps me going till 8 or so. Like I'll probably tap out at 8 today. That's kind of where I get my energy from.
Understandable.
Is truly just a love for what I'm doing. And I didn't feel that same way when I worked other jobs and stuff in the past. So I can't complain. Very happy about it.
Fair enough. I'd like to touch on like more of the personal side of things. Why my best friend Jacob? I guess that's still not personal, but it's we're getting there.
Why my best friend Jacob? Well, I guess to your question, to your point, the reason it even came about is White Trash Tyler was one of his first interviews. They asked him where he got his name, and he was like, "My best friend Jacob." And so I was looking for a name at the time. I didn't want to go by my government, and so it just kind of clicked. I was like, "Oh man, that kind of works." I gave him his name, he gives me mine. But I think the bigger part of it is like, um, I want it to be like I feel like I'm a personable guy. Like I don't think that I would walk into a room and you'd be like, why is that guy so standoffish, or you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. I got
And
you.
I feel like sometimes whether it's artists or producers or musicians in general, sometimes they put on that uh I don't want to say fakeness, but like they try and build like a character. And for me, like I'm not trying to like build a character. I kind of am who I
Yeah,
am. And so it kind of just works into that, like, hey, it's not so serious. This is fun. You know what I mean? Like, I'm your best friend. I'm just here to help. And it kind of worked in the sense of like, that's what a producer is basically here to do, like pull the best out of you the same way your best friend would. And then ultimately, when it comes to me helping other producers with the sound selection and stuff, it's like, yeah, it's your bestie here with those curated sounds when you needed them at the most. So yeah, it kind of works and hopefully shows
organically.
some of my personality there.
That's dope. I mean, that's kind of funny that it just worked out that way. It was just in the moment kind of naming, but
Yeah. It's sticky though, man. Like I can't tell you, every time like somebody will bring up my name to somebody else and it just sticks because they always think, oh, my best friend Jacob, and then he's like, somebody else will be like, sorry, he's not actually my best friend, and like, and then they have a
that's his name.
conversation about it. And
Yeah,
every time I'll meet somebody new that might have heard about me through the grapevines, it's like, man, and they'll explain that story to me, and I'm like,
yeah.
this is definitely doing its job. Like, you know what I mean? It's memorable. So
Like you have to meet my best friend Jacob,
yeah,
kind of deal. That's
yeah,
pretty dope.
exactly.
I know we kind of mentioned it, but what's the home life like? Not that we need to dive too deep, but like, what's your like routine, like either
Yeah, for
daily, weekly,
sure.
monthly, or whatever the case is?
So it tends to be Monday to Friday. I'm up at 5:45. I'm in here at 6 a.m. And then it's split between the two worlds. So I try and put like from 6 a.m. till noon, my music stuff. And
Yeah,
then from noon until 6 p.m. is the software, the company stuff. And obviously it depends on the week. Like right now I'm working on I was literally in the background. I'm rendering a project right now for a Nike commercial. So like, it depends on the week. It could go a bit longer. But yeah, that's basically it. I try and put in like those solid 12 hours split kind of between the two worlds. And then on the weekends, I just kind of hang out with my fiance. Well, sometimes I won't lie. Like I do get up on the weekends. I'll continue to get up at like 5 something just because like I know she'll sleep in till like 9 or 10,
right.
so I can get a couple more
A little
hours.
bit of work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I like it. So I don't feel like it's burning me out or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I think we heard, I don't know if it was recently, but Eminem basically runs on a 9 to 5. He runs his work. He is in the studio 9 to 5,
Yep.
lunch at lunchtime,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. And that's it sounds like with you, anyways. And
I
that's
Yeah, I think when it comes to creativity, I think there's this myth around it that like that there is no like math formula to like make it happen all the time. And I think people misread that because I think creativity, a lot of it comes with consistency. I think
yeah,
there's no artist out there that could tell you every day they put down ideas that are just amazing. It's the fact that they put down ideas after idea, and eventually those things, like I truly don't, even to a degree, believe that there's such thing as like writer's block. It's like if you just keep trying, you can get past that.
yeah. It's
Sometimes
when
like
you
that.
actually stop. Yeah,
Exactly. A lot of people just stop. They cut it short, or they don't put in that time where like, even on the days where I might not make what I consider great music, there's still a chance that somebody else hears it, thinks it's great, and it becomes like the biggest song in the world. But B, there's usually something that I learned from those experiences is like, oh, I'll remember that chord progression for some other thing that I want to try. And so I don't really count them as losses. And it just helps me get kind of like my max output, if you know what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense. I usually like to touch on this subject, whether you indulge or not, but
Sure.
smoker, drinker, both or neither.
Zero. Yeah,
Nothing.
I'm
Clean
pretty
cut.
clean cut sober dude. I don't
Nothing wrong with that, man.
yeah, I mean maybe like in my obviously in my younger days, but I
I'm the same way though.
yeah,
It
I don't
was
really have an answer.
no.
I do nothing. Yeah.
No, but I mean, and that speaks to just how your routine is at the same time. Because I mean, I've done interviews, a handful of interviews with this podcast already, that a lot of people, their jobs are not what they're doing creatively.
Mhm.
So to speak to you, I've talked to Hermit as well, and to talk to people that are doing what they love, doing the creative side of things. The whole point of this podcast is dope to hear, because you don't get to see that very often in people that you know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I like Corey LaRue does that for a living, Neon Dreams does that for a living,
Mhm.
and it's like it's the dream, and it's just nice to see somebody come from here
Mhm.
and do that kind of stuff, especially like on the international scale that you have. It's dope to see, and it's definitely appreciated, and it's inspiring at the same time. So I mean,
Appreciate it.
it touches home a little bit.
Yeah, I think too, like just to rewind a bit on that point is like, so I didn't make my full like leap until 2018, right?
Yeah.
That's when I fully was like, I'm only doing music and stuff like that. So for anybody thinking about it, I think the one thing that I truly learned um, is that when it boils down to like consistency and stuff like that, I realized as soon as like I didn't have, you know, a boss and somebody telling me what to do, it was very easy to be like, well, what do I do? You know what I mean? And then the whole day is gone and you don't actually kind of move forward. And I actually think that that happens to a lot of creatives. I think like we're so, it's very easy for like us to just sit down and write music all day, but then like we don't do the taxes. We don't go to that meeting. We don't do all the other stuff that like is the thing that pushes you forward. And so that was like definitely a learning curve. And I think that that's why I've gotten into this routine and stuff like that, because as I'm seeing things work and stuff, I'm realizing, oh, it's working because I'm actually putting in the time. And before, when I thought I was putting in the time, I wasn't actually like working that smart. I was doing things that weren't, you know, returning on the investment. So,
Yeah.
yeah, for anybody thinking about that, it's definitely not easy to jump into it. But the one thing that will help you get to a place where you can pay your bills and feel really comfortable is by just you know, putting down a plan that and then executing on that every day, and trying not to just like freestyle, you know.
Yeah, I've done the whole freestyle thing
Yeah.
over the past, and it's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
There's the ROI is definitely
Yeah.
not there,
Yeah.
but we're plugging away now, and I think I've started to enjoy doing these kind of interviews, because it allows me to just touch on people. Like I've talked to artists that I've wanted to talk to in a
Mhm.
long time, and it's just like I've never actually talked to them as a human being. It's always
Mhm.
been at like you're at a show and it's just you're giving daps after they did after they did their set, and that's it. You
Yeah.
don't really learn anything about anybody. So allowing myself to not only learn about their craft, but learning about just their everyday life, just because at the end of the day, I'm going to respect you for the human being that you are,
Mhm.
along with your craft, but more so who you are as a person.
For the person. Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's what I hopefully intend to do with a lot of this, and and get to talk to a few more people. You know, it's the intention anyways. But moving along, uh I know it sounds like a big question, but it might be an easy answer, I don't know. But favorite song of all time?
Power by Kanye West.
Easy.
Easy. Yeah, Power by Kanye West.
Why?
Well, I just that production. I remember that day I was in Dartmouth. I remember walking to the mall. I didn't have a vehicle at the time or
Fair.
anything. I remember walking to the mall, getting that album, coming home, and just being immersed in that world. I still think to this day it's one of the best albums ever created. But yeah, when it boils down to that song, uh, between the sample flip, the guitar, and the harmonizer on the guitar, the lyricism, like the content, even to I remember, I don't know if you remember the the graphics, the video that came out where they're
Yeah.
everything's floating and they're
Yeah.
in anyway. So just that the whole thing, I don't know if it's maybe just a time thing in my life, but I love that record. And I've had a chance to work with and talk to now S1 who produced that record on multiple times. He's a big fan of Octave and uses it all the time. So I've had a chance to kind of pick his brain, and every time I talk to him, I always start off our conversations with like the Jacob that walked to Micmac Mall to pick up that CD that day would never believe that he would be talking to S1. Like, I appreciate you so much, bro. Like, I feel like Power to this day, I'm still trying to like crack the code and be like, how can I make a Power? It's just such a timeless song, I think. So yeah, I definitely go with that.
It's a big record.
It was really, really great.
Well, Kanye's been the game changer since his day one. So I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Coming to the end of the podcast, and just like to touch on just little things. We'll do a this or that. Yep. But favorite Sunday jams, since Party on a Podcast is based off of Party on a Sunday. Favorite Sunday jams, top 3.
Oh man, now that's a hard question. You know, I would say I tend to go a bit more old school on the weekends. I like my Michael Jackson, so something off of Dangerous. I can't really boil it down, but something off of Dangerous. Okay. I would go with a Jodeci record. Probably Forever Like My Lady or something like that.
Yeah.
And then dang, I got one more, eh? This is a hard question.
You do top 5 if you really want to, but we'll stick to
No, we should stick to top 3. It's probably, man, it's definitely between Jodeci, a Michael Jackson song, and then Drake or Travis probably, or Don. I'll go Don Toliver Company.
Fair.
Yep.
That's quite the variety. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a solid Sunday. That sounds like a pretty decent Sunday to me.
Yeah.
So I run this just rapid fire questions. Mm-hmm. It's funny because every time I do it, they have long answers for the questions. But this or that, producing or artist?
This? Sorry,
Sorry, I can't say artist because that's not you anymore. Producing or like sound design, I guess, is I don't feel like they're the same thing. Like mixing and sound design
definitely
versus
not
producing.
100%. Sound design is I'm working on the next. Here's me rambling on now, like you just said.
Yeah, it's all good. That's why
I'm working on the sound design for the next plugin, and boy, let me tell you, it is. I think people underestimate. Like on a good day, you might be able to get one preset in a half hour.
That's crazy.
So imagine you're doing like this next one. At a minimum, we need 300. So 300 presets times 30 minutes. Those hours start adding up there, at that point.
They really do. Yeah, fair enough.
Let alone if you're getting into the world of like 6,000, like an atmosphere archery and stuff. So sound design is a tough one. So definitely love producing.
When it comes to listening, more underground or more mainstream?
Mainstream.
Singles or albums when it comes to listening?
Albums. I'm an old guy though, so.
Producing wise?
Albums still. I think, the cohesiveness. I think anything that I truly fall in love with is usually because the album's like so cohesive.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. New music or classics?
There's no there's no middle thing I can say, eh? Because I think my answer to that is like, I tend to go classics when I'm just listening to music, but I'm constantly inspired by like the new music and the innovation in it. Like I'm constantly hearing
that deserves an explanation, I guess.
Yeah. So that would be it.
Fair enough. Collaborative production or solo?
Oh, collab for sure. Anybody that's listening to this in any artistry, please collaborate. Collaboration is king. Collaboration is how you get better. You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And if you can surround yourself with some great individuals, you will continue to learn and grow and prosper, hopefully, from all of that. But yes, any placement I've ever got, any connection I've ever been introduced to, anything has come from collaborations. And to your point way earlier about really meeting or understanding people and going past like just what's up. collaborate and build a network of people that you can just call and don't have to just like talk music strictly to. Like when you truly build relationships with people, that's when those relationships turn into really great things that can happen in your life. So collaborate.
Respect. Travel or homebody?
Homebody.
Easy. Morning or night?
Morning.
I guess that goes back to the entire conversation of your routine.
Yeah.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
And when it comes to, I guess, artistry or anything to that nature, fame and fortune or like a cult like fan base? And more low key.
I would probably go cult like fan base, aka building a community, because communities are built to last. And if you can, at least when I'm learning through the octave stuff, is that like building the community, you get so much. Like I can't tell you what it was, the fulfillment, the feeling it was like the first time I heard somebody make a beat using like the instrument I created, and just that like deep connection. There is something way different than anything else when you can build that community, and ultimately that community starts to support you. And if you really want, you can get rich and famous with the community as well too. You know, everybody can kind of win. So I think community would triumph in that realm.
Fair enough. 90 last one, I guess. 90s hip hop or 2000s?
2000s.
Fair enough. I hate to do it, but I would do Biggie and Tupac, but
Pac.
That's
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like Biggie, but he only had 2 albums. Pac to me was like, I guess the good example of that is like Pac left seeds within Nipsey Hussle and all these other great individuals that you can directly kind of point back to. I don't necessarily know if like how often are people compared to as like Biggie?
Yeah,
you know?
That's fair. I feel like he's been quoted a lot more too. Pac, I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was like an activism in his music that I think if you're especially of an older generation, you appreciate when there's like lyrical content and stuff. Not to say that Biggie didn't have that, but just like the poetry he wrote and like, there's just so much more than just like the music.
You could always dive really deep into that conversation for sure. But last 2 things basically, and then we're off and running. But how do you want to be perceived as a person instead of just a producer? At the end of the day, when all is said and done.
If anything, I would say like that I didn't hurt anybody. I know that that's like a weird one. Like I think that I think as I've grown out of like my younger years and my teenage years and stuff, I've realized that like I want to be a help to people. I want to like, that's I think back to the best friend thing. It's like I want to give and give and give as much as I can. I think that thankfully with the company that I'm building, we're now in a position where we're starting to get to this place where we have like, we're building out and working on community initiatives to give back to the up and coming producers and the community in general. And I think like, I don't know, it's as simple as like, when I walk down the street and I, see a bug on the ground, I like make a clear conscious effort to just like move around it. Like, I just don't want,
I got you.
I don't want those things. I don't want those things in, that negativity or that
even
output.
Something as small as
that, like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to like stay cool, calm and collected and give, you know what I mean? Without really wanting or needing to receive much more. I think at the end of my life, if the majority of people that met me, dealt with me, could say that I help them rather than like hurt them, then I'd go down a happy
So that
guy.
makes more sense then. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Man. All right. Last, I guess, thing is plug any socials, any new stuff you're working on, and where can they find you? I guess if they really want to find you,
Well, we're just about to launch a YouTube channel on Thursday, but let me quickly, I want to make sure I get this right because Grant Ketty set this up. I didn't set up the channel. I just been shooting the stuff for it. So it should be Sauceware Audio. So if you want to check out, it's Sauceware Audio. Sauceware Audio. Go subscribe there. I think there's going to be a lot of great content. And again, back to the community aspect, I'm going to use this as a platform to inform and just pass on valuable information and stuff like that too. So a lot of great tutorials. The one that's coming on Thursday, and if you're listening to this, it might already be up, so go check it out, is I did a SSG Kobe record with Wonder Girl, and I used the sounds that I used. It's all octave sounds, which is another great crazy thing to think that like I not only did I get like a placement with one of my favorite producers, but also like I did it using all the sounds that I created in my own plugin, which is
That's
like
dope.
another crazy, a double whammy. So go check that out, because I'm breaking that all down. Outside of that, you can follow the channel Software Audio. We're on Instagram, all the socials and stuff like that. We're just up and going, so don't be surprised if you show up and there's like 2 followers. We're just starting to kind of to grow out the brand that way, but I definitely think get in there now, because I'm trying my best to be a part of all the conversations and answer questions and just be a part of the community. And like I said, in the off hours that I do have, to answer some questions and hit back some people, because yeah, that's what it's all about.
Appreciate it, man. I couldn't thank you enough for doing this, because this is actually one of the interviews that I've been waiting to do, just because
Yeah, for sure.
I know you're a homie from back here, so like back in Nova Scotia. It's a pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure.
Good to chop it up, like you said, to go a bit deeper than just like the what's up at the show.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I can appreciate the conversation a little bit more this way.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
And to see that your success has exceeded Nova Scotia is inspiring. Like I've said through the entire interview, I couldn't thank you enough once again for being on the podcast. It's been a dope conversation, and hope we can do this again in the future. Hopefully you're not too busy with too successful, to.
No, I'll never be. I'll never be that.
So appreciate it, man.
All right.
Drinking my hand, do it every week, put my feet in the sand. I can do it someday. Why party at the